So welcome everybody to the first off the record of 2022. It's been a year. Already made that joke, but welcome everybody. We're a group of Airtable users exploring new ways to use Airtable to optimize our businesses and lives. We're open to hearing from anyone from your experience, good or bad, using Airtable to make a positive impact in the world. I sense this week we might have some on both polarities of good and bad. But we attempt to promote people coming from any level to share your ideas or ask questions. We also share our experiences, tips, and practices and offer ways to get help and get involved in the community. We meet on Wednesdays from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I think starting now, we're going to be doing every other week. So it'll be 1 week on, 1 week off. I think that'll give us a little bit better consistency over time. So to kick things off, I think everybody here is not brand new. So welcome. Camille joined as well. So welcome, Camille. This week, actually, we haven't met for like 3 or 4 weeks now. So there's been a ton of stuff that's been new. One thing I think I know at least 3 of our minds at top of mind is Airtable released some pricing updates, which are public information. And there's been a ton of conversation about that. I know this week Softer had a Series A. More importantly, Chris got featured in the Airtable blog. Chris has also been working on a ton of stuff behind the scenes. I know there's been some custom apps developed that I'm sure we will get to see. So it's going to be an action-packed day. Like I think today, what would be great to go through would be some of the more pressing things. So some of the updates to Airtable. I know there's been a conditional actions and automations that was updated. But if we want to start either there with if people might be wondering what those pricing updates are, we could jump into either of those. I don't know if anybody has a preference.
Pricing is the more.
I can't stay long, so if you want to hear my opinions about anything, it needs to be in the first half of the show.
Okay, so let's do pricing first then. And so just to give updates on pricing, I haven't been able to find both will also be talked about. Is that, Camille, are you referencing like the conditional automations or the pricing as well?
Both of those.
Okay. I was thinking pricing got pushed to the next week.
It's mostly the feature, but they're talking about those.
You're a bit garbled.
Are you talking about the pricing updates that they announced like last week that Rebecca shared on the Facebook group? Okay.
Do you have that link?
No, I could use. Should I go grab it out of the group?
Here, I have the link. It's all good.
Okay. Bring that up and let's take a look at it.
I think this is the right link. I clicked on the first one I saw.
That's the link.
It.
These are the new updates. So to the free plan, from my understanding, there's 2 real big changes. One is you now can have 1 app per base, although you could previously have scripting, but now you can have any app plus any scripting apps. And 1 app means 1 installation of the app, not one, like you can't have 1 chart app 10 times. You can have 1 chart app. The other big update to this plan is instead of unlimited users on the free plan, similar to say like Google Sheets, you can now only have 5. So you're limited to 5 as far as editors and anybody with any like real permissions. You can have unlimited read-only and commenters. So that's to the free plan. The plus plan, I never hear anything. I never use this plan, so I'm just going to skip it personally.
I think it's because people love things in 3s. That's got to just be it.
Yeah.
The old pricing plan didn't have much incentive to use it.
Yeah, so here you get access to 3 apps, 3 syncs. So free is free, plus is $10 per user per month. So that's the jump there. And then, yeah, so 3 app installs, not 3 apps, just 3 app installs. So you could have the chart app 3 times, or you could have the chart, the page designer, and another page designer. That's it. 3 synced integrations, and then custom branding and forms. Now, Pro, I think this one is the biggest limiter. In my opinion, it's this limit on the free plan, and then this limit on the Pro plan.
Yeah.
Is instead of unlimited app installs per base, you can only have 10. So I know there's been a lot of talk on the community forums about this, but 10 app installs per base, 7 sync integrations per workspace. And a question that I have, because I just thought about this earlier today, was, is this 7 sync in only external sync integrations, or does this also cover Airtable sync, like if I sync a table to another table? Something I don't know.
That's what I thought, because with the free plan, what's stopping you from syncing stuff to multiple bases just to get more apps?
Yeah.
And you can see people in the new scheme doing that. We've done a lot of our own base designs very carefully so that we can get a whole bunch of our people in the organization doing updates and then syncing it out to a pro plan workspace where they're read-only, but if you put them side by side, now they have all their nice apps and they sync the data up and it's fine and dandy. But you know, this sync thing is, people are gonna jump through hoops. But the worst thing I think is that there's no practical upgrade from the pro plan. So those limits, I don't really know what they're trying to do here. Are they, maybe I need to investigate what an enterprise plan costs, but you know.
Well, it says, well, right there, it tells you, Chuck, what it is. It's for large, fast-moving organizations. So I think, and empower for their teams. So again, I just think there isn't like a level, to your point, Chuck, like who's it for?
I mean, does anybody know here what typical prices and how they price the enterprise plan? I always thought it was just out of sight. It's for, you know, very large companies, and in which case that means there's this huge gap between the pro plan and the enterprise plan. It's terribly limiting. You can fix your problems with the free plan by paying money, but you can't fix the pro plan.
Well, you know, I thought about this, and the reality is, does it really affect any of us? We all were in before the cutoff.
Thank
So,
God.
This is what I was saying is we do want to be clear is that if you already have what they call a legacy plan, your plan has not changed at all. The features that you have available, if you already have a workspace with unlimited apps, you still have unlimited apps. It affects people who create new workspaces. And does that affect you if you only work on your own workspace? I guess not that much, unless you ever plan on maybe having a second workspace for some other reason. On the other hand, if you're a consultant and that you work with other people, I think it does have a big impact, because there's 2 things going on. One is, if you have someone who doesn't have a workspace yet, then you have to think, okay, they're going to be limited. What can I do to build with these new limitations that I don't normally have? Or the other thing is, if you have someone in and they're coming in, they're talking to you, you have to remember, wait a minute, are they on the legacy plan or the new plan? What can I actually do? And it just makes everything that much harder when you're trying to diagnose what's going on with the system and try and create and help them.
The Build on Air podcast was, you know, the discussion was around, this is really detrimental to small clubs and church groups where they're more than 5 members, but they don't have a budget. And all of a sudden now they're stuck.
Well, you know, again, I hate to play devil's advocate because I'm no fan of change, but in reality, for all the Airtable does, if you're on a free plan and you can't pony up $200 a year, there are free options that are Airtable like.
I do think that with the free plan, there are people who were on the free plan who they won't be able to do what they did. But when you're getting something for free, it's really, I don't think you should be complaining about that you can't do what other people used to be. You know, if you get a free pint of ice cream, don't complain that it's only a pint now when it used to be a half gallon.
And then if you're a consultant and you've got, like, because I've got that 5 Pro plan, I've got a couple workspaces of that where I've got 5 users in them. I always invite people I do work for to those anyway, to get them kind of used to swimming on their own before I send them out and tell them get their own stuff. So I don't know. Wait, Camille just said something. She said, that's why I never really said anything about the free changes. My problems are always pro charge. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
I mean,
you,
like one
Camille.
thing I do think is really nice. I do think it is really nice that they do make the apps available to the free and the plus, because I've had people where like they're on free or they're on plus and they're like, they don't even want to hear what apps can do because they don't want to pay for them. And like, okay, but now this lets people experience them and then they can see, well, maybe actually this actually would really help their business and would actually be worthwhile. At least they get to make an informed decision now.
So
You know,
were apps not in free before? I'm sorry, Kovan.
with
Oh,
the-
so they're getting a taster now.
yeah, before if the
Oh.
only way to get apps at all was to go into a pro plan. If you were in free or plus, you didn't have apps at all.
I did not know that. I've always had pro.
Yeah, I'd really be interested in knowing what percentage of customers with workspaces are very small organizations or large organizations. We don't really know. And the Build on Air podcast was saying, you know, if you get people in on their local clubs, or their church group, or in our case, a local not-for-profit, you know, that might open doors across the board for those people when they go back to their day jobs. But if you don't see that happening, then yeah, it's tough, guys. It was free net before and it's not.
And we have to remember that Airtable is an enterprise tool, right? That's where they want to be. Even though we're all here, where they want to be is there. I mean, we're kind of lucky in a way we benefited. Salesforce and ServiceNow, which I think are very similar in model and scale and how they're getting here. Chuck, you remember this? There was never a consumer version of Salesforce for a church. There was never a consumer version of ServiceNow for your local food pantry. You know, so I think we have to be a little bit, I don't know. I just feel like we're so entitled right now.
You look at this, I draw an analogy to the PC revolution. When PCs were something that everybody had, all of a sudden, things in volume were where it was at. When you could get a phone, you had all these fine programs on it, and they only charged 99 cents. People were making big bucks. It's very difficult, you know, the major market in mobile software, I don't think is at the enterprise level. And so I'm biased because, you know, I worry about future changes and how they're going. And you might be right, Chris. If they're going to the enterprise, there's going to be a lot of entry-level door opening experiences that will not take place.
I don't see them cutting off the funnel, because let's be honest, the funnel that they've got them here has been this. So the kind of small prosumer funnel. Now, that doesn't mean they don't want these people, but they know there's a there. I mean, we all know people at Airtable now. We've all, or have been exposed to them on podcasts. I mean, or Andrew. What's his name? Aaron's show. I mean, so they're pretty clear that they know their funnel. And once they get in an organization, just like when someone carries in an iPhone at the beginning of that mobile revolution, they're in, right? I think we have to just be, to me, the most important thing that happened with this upgrade wasn't all the changes and all the people freaking out. It was the fact they said, legacy users, you're fine. That's actually unique. Most other companies will say next time you rebuild, you go down to everyone else. They brought everybody with them.
But Camille, I had made a comment that I found interesting, and we know she's going to be off in a while, but she was talking about the just random nature of the 10 apps in the Pro Workspace. Why 10? Are they running into performance problems? Why?
I use a lot of apps and I've seen some degradation. I don't have that many records. So there is something going on with the apps. And I do think Interface Designer is now and people think I'm crazy, is now at a war with some of the apps. I feel that Interface Designer is going to eat the app marketplace, which is interesting because if I was a developer, I'd want my apps kind of over on that Interface Designer too.
It's only going to get worse as they add some critical missing features. On the Built on Air podcast, they were talking about ways to create new records on an interface. And once they get out of beta phase and they give the really needed features to the interface, geez, I wouldn't want to be an app designer.
Well, I think there's always going to be something where apps could be used, especially if you make apps available from an interface, because there's always going to be something new or innovative that people will want to do. So there's always going to be some idea that you can do it. But part of the problem is it going to be set up in a way that motivates developers to actually build out those ideas? And that's a totally different question. There's always going to be something that you could add. There's always going to be some kind of interaction or some sort of new way of displaying things.
Camille just said, Chris isn't crazy. The point of Interface Designer, but you can only replace 5 of 87 apps. Yeah, it's a good point. This changing up. Yeah. I think it's funny. So people who are watching or listening, I don't know if anyone ever listens. Camille, who sometimes is here, is not here. So we're not channeling her through some puppetry. We're reading her chats. And if you're on Facebook, you can chat too. But she was just saying that's a good. Hey, Rebecca's here. She's in the dark though. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's great. You know, people are upset. People are not upset. I don't think, was anybody happy about this change? I guess I'm more happy now that I know that it gave free people. I didn't know that free people didn't have apps.
Well, I received the first email from a Plus user who received a nice little email telling them all about all the changes. I find it really funny that none of these Pro users or people who cheerlead for Pro accounts or any of that got any sort of email saying, hey, well, sorry. Or even the same email with the quote with the link to the same place.
The support, yeah.
You were going to blindside all of us. You weren't going to tell us. And I haven't had a chance to get all of my frustrations out on any podcast, so it might be a little feisty tonight, but.
Well, I noticed you've got your Stranger Things lights up. So do you communicate with the dead through those lights?
No, I wish. I might be able to, get some tips here and there and figure some stuff out, but.
So how is this impact? Who on here was or is or will use free and feels impacted?
I think it hurts Airtable out of all people because of the limitation on the number of users, because I'm in multiple workspaces where there's 200 or they're like community workspaces. So there's a set of base that are like, some of them are templates, others are just resources, but we're shared on the whole workspace, and that can't happen now moving forward. And if there's 200 people shared on that, that's exposing 200 people who may or may not have used Airtable before to Airtable, just as like very like small details, but that's why
we weren't already grandfathered in, like Chris said.
Well, so here's my problem though with that is like, I just finished my system. I'm just now getting ready to roll it out to more people, and I already have to rebuild it because some of my documents are more than 20 pages.
Yeah.
So
we've orchestrated our databases the same way. You need to refactor.
Give us these all-in-ones that you're talking about, these all-in-one tools that you're pushing to get in there. Like, you need to give us some of those too. I don't know.
When they made the change, have they had a bit? What's the Aaron show called?
Table
Table
talk.
Talk. Have they had a table talk since then?
No,
No, tomorrow's going to be the first one of the new year.
And I thought that one said they're going to talk about the new conditional.
Because they're trying to put a Band-Aid over their oopsie.
I don't.
So the one tomorrow was originally going to be the roadmap one, but that got pushed
Yes.
into February.
Okay.
I think we haven't really talked about this much on here, but one of the people most impacted by the app limit on the pro plan is people like Camille and Kuvan, who are app developers and now have to compete for one of the 10 installs of an app.
I can definitely see that one.
No.
I can see them coming out and realizing they have to have something. And there's going to be some sort of pro plus extra apps. You can pay for the apps. Or
But we
another
can't even
tier.
pay for apps right now.
Yeah,
I feel like you would already have needed to have that infrastructure in place. Like, I don't understand why the button that says install on the apps page can't lead to a Stripe link. Like, I don't understand why you, Kuvan, can't submit and say, this is the Stripe link that I want to use for people to be able to pay for my app. And when they hit the install button, it starts the Stripe payment process.
the
Maybe
Airtable
that's just
store.
my lack of understanding of how all of this stuff works.
I think Camille brings up a good point as well.
Really?
Like, we were not warned at all of this, and she
No, it
had
was right out of the blue.
and they didn't even tell her. And I
No.
wrote a similar thing into my post I posted on the community forum, was that from my perspective, I see Kuvan and Camille having some of, like, prior to this, having the best relationships and like the most interpersonal relationships with people at Airtable, like frequent communication, good communication up there. That was my perception of it. And so for me, I'm thankful that I'm not invested that much into the apps, but it's just a wake up call, I feel like, for everybody, that like, if the people that are closest and that have like the best relationship with Airtable are getting fucked over like this, then what is it? What's our relationship with them as other?
This is
Yeah.
like
Well,
atypical too.
I
Ben. Don't
will
you
say
think
that-
this is different.
A developer relationship is different from other people. There are other people that have closer relationships, but they're at different levels of partnering. As far as the developers, I mean, I almost get the feeling like they said, okay, here we've got this custom app SDK, here, have at it. And then they moved on and started looking at other things. Camille, she's saying that she has an app under review and they didn't tell her about this. I actually have 2 apps that are under review. And I have 6 apps that are in the marketplace. You know, between Camille and I, like we've got a quarter of the third-party apps.
Yeah, so I walked into a different room so I could vocalize my frustrations out loud. So Kavan is exactly right. This app that I have currently under review would have been my 4th app in the marketplace, and Kavan has 6, and she's going to have 8. So
we
if you-
couldn't even install all of your apps if we're just like your friend and want to be nice.
Yep. Also, fun fact, if you have an app submitted to the marketplace, your own apps count against your limit. So even though
Oh my God.
I wrote all the code, now I can install my own custom, separate installation, not from the marketplace. I have that ability, but it's also very frustrating that if I just want to use the one that's in the marketplace, can't do it, it counts against the 10. There's a lot about the implementation that I don't like, but I think most of my frustration comes from the lack of communication. I was very put out by not, it was an immediate change, and it was like on a Tuesday, and it was the middle of the month. It wasn't, hey, at the end of January, we're going to implement this change. And it wasn't, hey, people, not even every single developer, the people who are in the marketplace or the people who have apps under review in the marketplace. Hey guys, in the future, pro plan users won't be able to install more than 10. So, that might affect how you price your apps, for instance. Like Kavan charges by base. So if people have to start splitting their apps amongst multiple bases, they're going to have to buy multiple licenses from Kavan. I charge by subscription. If you can't reliably have my app in your base because you've only got 10, you're not going to buy a subscription with me. This affects how our businesses are run. And again, random Tuesday, middle of the month, no warning, no announcement. It was just a help article, and I found out live on air.
There actually was a huge warning. I thought I'd bring this up. I don't know if anyone caught this in December. They kind of said this was coming because they basically raised a bunch more money. And I'm going to keep going back here until we all start to understand. So in the beginning of December, they got almost $1 billion extra, taking their valuation almost 11 billion. You cannot have a company worth $11 billion if it's not selling a lot of software.
Not worth $11 billion. That's what I keep trying to get across to people, is somebody in a room said maybe someday it could be worth $11 billion, but right now it's not done.
Yeah, I think again, I'm mad for several reasons. One of the other reasons why I'm mad.
Oh, okay. So I want to make sure Camille, your team not happy. Rebecca,
I'm team not happy, and it's mostly
Rebecca's team unhappy. Kavan, your team on not happy. Okay.
You know, there's
Chuck,
things I like, there's things I don't like.
Yes.
I'm so super happy for free users. I'm really incredibly happy for free users.
Yeah, I'm with Kavan. There's
I'm
there's
like
stuff to
when it comes to things with developing of the apps, I'm like, okay, how am I going to pivot my business? Because I still love Airtable, and I want to find a way to make this work. I don't know what that is going to be, but I'm like, there's got to be a way to make this work. But I still love Airtable.
Yeah, this isn't going to kill the company or whatever. And I agree that free, I could see pros and cons to limiting users, and I don't think that's going to be I don't think it's the best solution. But at the same time, because it's a free tier, I'm less critical of it. And Plus is objectively better than it was before. Pro plan is where all of my frustrations are, and I'm very frustrated about it. I think it could have been handled differently, and I think the limits that they chose were arbitrary. I
recently found out that they've doubled in size in the past 2 months.
And
in
does
employees,
anybody know
yes.
Employees.
if the people making
means
this
they're also
decision
training
are
all of them.
different from prior communications? Because it seems to me this is totally atypical. I haven't seen something so poorly choreographed, so poorly thought out, so poorly presented to the user base since I've been working with it.
Well, and here's the thing. I don't think that any of this is on the shoulders of Jordan, Albry, or Taylor. I don't. I genuinely believe that in my heart. And I believe that they were just as pissed off about all of this as we are.
Who are those
They
people?
didn't want to do it either.
So Jordan is the head of community, and I have my doubts that this announcement was, every single employee at Airtable knew about it and was well aware. After there was backlash, I think Jordan's done a very good job of helping to orchestrate collecting that feedback and making people feel heard, and they've refactored what tomorrow's table talk is going to be. It used to be, like Kavan already said this, it used to be the product roadmap, which they've never done before. They pushed that back so that at least part of the table talk, it's not going to be the whole one, but part of it could be to discuss these pricing changes. They weren't going to do that before, and then we started complaining and they did it. So I think there are signs that
did anything change for Enterprise on that? So did Enterprise get changed? Okay, so
Enterprise was not affected, but my understanding is that Enterprise is not one single set thing. That it's talk to them and they'll work with you and try and figure out a package, because there's already been evidence that says that not all enterprises that are same. There have been people who said, hey, we have Enterprise and we've got this, and other people on Enterprise says, wait a minute, our Enterprise account doesn't have that feature. So there's not just a single set, this is what Enterprise is.
And I think
they
this is why
they really don't say
but this is why professional services, and if you go to their site, I took a screenshot of their job openings. The professional service and education is really kind of, I think, come into its own, because you don't have to do as much with licenses and licensure if you've got, kind of pro features around, pro services. I don't know. I think we're just going to see more of this in the future, unfortunately, if this is making people upset, which is sad because I don't want people to be upset.
I don't want to be upset either.
But
And I wouldn't be upset if they did it right the first time.
Yes, exactly. I would not be
Yeah.
upset at all, and really not really that impacted personally, even if they didn't give us legacy. Like, I would be, but it would only take a couple of days of work to undo it. But you essentially, if you believe that omission is lying, you lied about it. And then you made a list of people that you cared to tell and people that you didn't, and you didn't tell anybody what you were basing that list on. So nobody knows why they were or weren't on the list. I know why I wasn't on the list. I'm one of the people they're trying to get out with these types of changes.
I'm trying to chase you out.
Well, I'm just saying, I certainly have a very high cost per user. I certainly utilize the services that they say that they offer,
Rebecca, I don't think anyone wants you to go anywhere.
No. I'm not saying, I'm saying that my section of users that
Yeah.
are
Oh,
trying
people
to
like you.
work
I got it.
Airtable
Yeah. Okay.
and make it do stuff that it's really not meant to do. Like, I can tell you for a fact that my cost per user is extremely high because I'm the only user. There's not a bunch of licenses on my stuff because I figured out how I need to log everybody in and all of that stuff. And I don't think that we should be faulted for filling the holes that your product leaves. I don't.
I think Airtable is going through growing pains. It's going through a lot of growing pains, and it is growing, and there are a lot of pains. And the problem that part of that I have is I'm not sure who's the actual toddler here. Is Airtable the toddler that's growing up and trying and making missteps and trying to figure things out? Are they a teenager? But a lot of times I feel like Airtable's treating its customers, its user base, as toddlers, as in okay, let's protect you, let's control what you can and can't do, and let's protect you from yourself, kind of a thing.
It's a reverse coda.
We're not treating each other as adults, and well, are we? I don't know.
And that type of behavior in a parenting situation is what makes an anxious.
Let's ask the
woman.
magic 8-ball. Is Airtable treating us like children? The magic 8-ball says, oh, I'm not going to say it out loud.
Can't quite make it out, Chris.
Yes, definitely.
Well, there you go.
When you
The
actually
8-ball has spoken.
I think we're missing like one of the biggest points out of all this, and I'll share my screen to show this, but we are all missing the biggest possibly investment opportunity in all of 2022. Right now, you can invest in an Airtable Legacy Pro plan because not everywhere is the pricing updated. And what I predict is you could probably sell this in anywhere from 1 to 10 years from now for potentially thousands of dollars.
You just have to pay that
$2,400.
$240 a year for until then.
Yeah, so today I tested this out because apparently it's starting in January 2022. But when I went to, I'll share another screenshot. When I went to go update my plan, I got hit with this nice little piece of marketing material. Unlimited apps per base. And I did this not too long. What's the timestamp say? My Zoom is covering it. 5:24 p.m.
Ben, I literally am upgrading right now.
Like, upgrade your plans, invest in Airtable Pro plans that are legacy right now, and you can resell these things. I don't know how much for just yet, but I anticipate they will charge a premium.
This is one thing I was wondering is what happens when you change the ownership of a workspace? You know, are there going to be implications around that? The main reason I think that they made legacy ones is because they knew that people have built out all of these bases that won't fit in those limits, and they can't force them to say, actually, no, you have to cut back down, because it
Yeah.
just you can't. Like when they made scripting and they decided to make scripting free for anyone, there's so many scripts out there in the wild that if they suddenly said, no, you can't use scripting, there's so many bases that would just come to a screeching halt. There'd be so many upset people that they couldn't do it. But you know, if you want to invest in Lex, I don't know. I mean,
I created it and I added a base and I added 11 apps, or I installed 11 apps and one dashboard and one base, and it did just fine.
what I'm frustrated with is I really want to try out the free plan, the free workspace where you can get one app. And I'm like, I can't do it. Like, if I go into an incognito window, I can go to Airtable's pricing page and I can see that. But I can't actually get to it because whenever I'm logged in, it only shows me the old legacy ones.
What
Well,
if
it's funny because Rebecca and I are both Pori users, and Pori keeps upgrading their stuff, but they're carrying all the old users along. If I had to rebuy Pori today from scratch, I would be broke. And that's not even like the softer and the stackers of the world. I don't think I could ever afford that. So I don't know. I understand where everyone's at. I just think I give them a little bit of credit for legacying us all in. I guess I'd be a lot more angrier if like we were impacted more. And I give them credit for upgrading, you know, giving free more. I hadn't considered the impact on application developers like Kavan and Camille. I feel bad that I hadn't done that until just now. I just keep going back to like, they have to, first, I've been saying this for a year now since we've been doing the show, the whole licensing needs to be redone. Like everything.
Well, I think that's part of I keep saying that's part of why I'm mad. I'm mad for 10 trillion reasons. Another one of those 10 trillion reasons is the permission structure is just as frustrating as it was last week. That didn't change.
The permission structure and the license structure, guess what? Go hand in hand.
Well, obviously they do. I'm saying they changed what your plans allow, but they didn't change either the licensing or the permissions. So
what I thought was interesting was it used to be that commenters had, if you were in a paid, commenters had to be paid. Now it says like in the free one, you get unlimited commenters, which are still going to be free. I'm like, does this mean that commenters in Pro and Plus might be free as well?
It wasn't clear based on
it was they
article.
didn't address anything about that. But I'm wondering, I mean, commenter I think is one of the most useless permission levels.
I think if they're going to combat anything, they should combat the spam of some of these people who set up fake email accounts and then sell credits. I have always found that to be just horrific. Like they could literally cut the price of Airtable if they were to just reharvest that money back.
That's going to be me this year with Pro plans.
Oh yeah, I bought 2 since you told me, Ben. I did that one. I've done another one since then. Yeah.
Another thing I found very interesting is their marketing, because they're marketing these app limits. And well, there's one point that they did, they listed Plus I think twice on here, but they're advertising that they're limiting these. They took us from unlimited down to 10, and they're putting it on the front page of Google.
It's strange that they're not using. Go ahead, Rebecca. Sorry.
Is this one of these fake limits like record limits? I mean, is this just so this brings up no, because I said this too in the community forum, basically like, I get that you want us to reduce our cost per user, right? So tell us what increases our cost per user. Tell us.
Yes, it's support tickets. My initial thought, and I think I sent this in the Built on Air Slack channel, was if I was at Airtable and I was thinking, how can I reduce like my cost by 80%? Well, let's look at the 20% of users that have 80% of our support ticket costs. Maybe that's people with more than 10 apps. Maybe that's how they came to this decision. And Rebecca, how many support tickets have you had?
I never get helpful answers from support, so I don't even ask.
Okay, okay. Well, that's kind of a train of thought that I was
You
trying.
don't want to know my number of support tickets because most of them are bugs.
Yeah, so. I don't know.
Okay, but it's 45 minutes on licensing. Should we move to conditionals?
No.
I have to take off anyway. It was nice chatting with you. So you said you're moving to every other week now. So I guess I will see y'all in a couple weeks.
2 weeks. Thank you, Kavan.
Bye.
Great to see you. Yeah. We can definitely move away from the licensing dilemma and issues. Does anybody want to demo the conditional actions? If not, I can pull something up and we can demo it online.
I haven't even gone to see if they're enabled for me yet. But before you get into conditional actions, I just want to say, I don't know if you guys have checked out the Airtable for the Record blog, but there's an amazing article about this guy on here. Just incredible work. I think you should check it out.
Yep.
Chuck, did you get to read my article?
No,
It went live today.
It just went live today. Show us some conditional logics. I want to see it. I saw like a GIF on Twitter, but I still don't know how it works. So it'd be really good, especially if it fixes the problem I have with getting my moon cycles to tweet out right.
All right, so let's see. I'm actually going to show off Camille's base that I also showed off earlier this week to some of my clients. This is I just thought maybe someday they might limit downloads of app or bases from the marketplace.
Well, I mean, think about all the people who download stuff from Universe that's kind of instantly not work if they're free.
Oh yeah.
All the Universe apps have a ton of, all the Universe app bases have a ton of apps.
Do apps in the Universe go into the?
Yes, they come along.
Okay.
I only know this because when I made my app that got covered in the media last year at the beginning of the pandemic, they actually asked me, Airtable did, hey, we love what you're doing. Will you talk to a journalist for us? I said, yeah. And they said, will you build some apps for it? I'm like, not build some apps, but add some apps. I'm like, sure. And that's when I was just like, oh, they come along. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, Universe comes along with the apps, but does not come along with the automations.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I found that out from this base.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so the first thing you'll need is a trigger. And here I'm not going to do anything. Actually, it would be useful to have the trigger. So log. I'm going to change this to when record is updated because this would be the actual trigger required for this base just by knowing it.
This is a base that Camille uses?
Yeah, she built this base. So basically what this would do is you could have like a log of transactions here. And it's gonna categorize or take that date, format it into different periods, and then link to this table so that you could look at aggregated data over time. So you could look at probably group by something like this. Then you could see over these 4 weeks, what were your average costs or total costs.
That's cool.
Total revenue, that kind of thing. So, but there needs to be an automation that when the date is updated, it needs to update this right here.
I swear this would fix the problem I'm having with my other system.
It needs to copy this and paste it right there, basically. That's what the automation needs to do. But
17017482505.
and this is something I've found to be really buggy on my end. Maybe it's just my Airtable base, but when I click add conditional actions, it throws this floating box randomly. Earlier, I had it over here.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like it's designed. I think that's a bug.
So here, so you have your normal actions and you can add actions that happen no matter what. But now, so for example, we need to update that record in the log. Here, you'll pick the record ID from the trigger, which I did not test. And then we need to link it to, hopefully that's the right table.
That's making me all proud like a mama to see you rolling around her base like this.
Now I can't remember what the field was called.
It's report periods, I think.
So that's the action that really needs to happen. But now you can have other conditional actions. And I wish Kuvan was here because she sent some great explainers of the limitations of this. But you can now have if conditions are met. They also split this, the automations like side view on the right into testing and properties, which I think someone commented was nice. And I would also love to see what this looks like on others. Because it is up in a random place, this floating box.
Yeah, I don't remember that happening to me. I don't think it's supposed to appear where it's appearing on your screen. That feels weird.
So now here, down here, you add actions just the same. Like I could add, send an email to Chris at Chris. I think that's your email. So I could do that just the same, but what I would add up here are conditions. So you can say certain things from the trigger record had matching values. And so I think a good example of this is if you have like a single select or multi-select, you have actions you want to do no matter what. But then if this certain thing matches these conditions, then also do these additional steps.
See, this is, I could do this if it was equals full moon. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
The trick with yours is you'd have to look at different records. But
Okay.
I think this actually might work because you can make this dynamic, but you can't change this from contains. So maybe it wouldn't.
I love contains.
But you could say where let's see. I don't have any good examples on this base, but where something from the trigger contains either something from another action, so possibly on a different table, or is static and just contains like conditional 2. So if there was something in the trigger where you wanted it to run based on this or any previous actions, you could do that here. You can add multiple conditions. So something contains conditions 3. You can have that, and then you can also have what they call otherwise, which is if none of these are met, then it runs this. Something I don't know, and maybe Camille, I don't know if you'd know the answer to this, is can it run through multiple of these, or does it have to stop at the end of the, like?
My understanding of it right now is it works just like the if formula. If color equals red, then say red. But if it equals blue, then blue. If it's both red and blue, it's going to stop at red.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And otherwise is exactly what it sounds like. If none of those previous conditional actions are met, then do this.
Yeah.
The actions above that, if you scroll up, it goes trigger, actions, conditional actions on the sidebar. Actions happen no matter what, like you said, and conditional actions are where we're doing the if statement.
But this is brand new. So basically having an and instead of an otherwise may still be something that's possible in the long term.
Yes, that's they could probably do that. Conditional groups for when you're setting up a filter and all of that kind of stuff. That's still fairly new. They might go back and apply similar sort of methodology here where you could say maybe, I don't know what the exact implementation of it would be, but similar to Integromat or I think maybe Zapier, where you could have different branches, but it still allows you to do multiple things within that branch without disregarding a whole section if you want to do both.
Camille, are you masked?
I am, sorry.
Okay. No. I just, it was not a big deal. I wasn't picking on you. I just thought you sound different. I wasn't sure it was my headphone. Oh, by the way, has everyone been staying healthy? Has anyone gotten sick?
I got COVID over Christmas, but
No!
I'm back.
I also had COVID over Christmas.
Yeah,
still
I
have
think
a bit of flu.
it was kind of funny because Ben and I are actually working on a client project together, and our client also got COVID over Christmas. So I had a meeting with that client, and I was like, "Man, my Christmas sucked," and he was like, "Wow, my Christmas sucked too." It's a great unifier.
Becca
Now.
and Chuck, have you been okay?
Everyone around me has COVID, but I have not. Oh,
Chuck,
not even
you
a
doing good?
sniffly nose.
Oh, Chuck, you're muted. You're hoarse.
The phone rang, so I shut it down. I live with an immunocompromised person, so I've been extra careful. So far, so good.
Good. I've been 2 years now. I was in a mask January 2020, so I'm good. Actually, my spouse and I are sleeping separate. It's been almost a month because he's a school teacher. He went back to school and he's working long days because they're putting on a theater production. And we thought just during Omicron, you know, if he can ride it out and not get infected. So, and we're even masked up inside the house. He's in a N95 now in the bedroom, even though I'm sleeping in this room. And I'm just off mask because of this. I'm glad everyone's been staying okay. Rebecca and Chuck and Ben and Camille, I'm so sorry.
Made it through.
Yeah.
Thankfully. All good.
Okay, can I show you my new interface I've built? I'm so excited.
Let's see it.
Let's see it.
Okay, I'm so excited. You're gonna love this. Okay, so if you remember the last time on the big show, I was still not sure about Interface Designer. If you remember the old shows from the last year, it just didn't feel quite ready for prime time. But this was before they started like really pushing it's a beta. And again, okay, now that I know it's beta, I'm like, okay, I get it. But I'm actually starting to get it. And actually things have been, Ben, and by the way, Ben teaches me so much. If you're looking for a consultant, Ben Green is your guy. I say to Ben all the time, like, what about this thing? It does that. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that. Okay, as a lot of you know, I've been slowly but surely moving my base, just the Chris Dancy base that I run my life on, I call Airtable, over to a Pori site so that my real life and my other life will all be merged, which is just kind of nice. It's allowed me to start to see how I can work with records and just see them outside. But I was doing this last year before Interface Designer. Part of the way of doing it, and I wanted to mention this to someone, is someone said you have to be careful with embedding widgets or apps on your website. What I've been doing is it's just building those widgets off of synced data to a middleware base. So I'm using a middleware base where only some things are coming over. Like I don't want clients to see what other clients are paying. So obviously the charts and graphs for those things have to look different. Does that all make sense before I go on?
Yep.
All right. I have a dashboard that's just for my family. I've used it forever. It's got a bunch of cool stuff in it and it's really nice. And what I've been able to do is say, well, what's really the difference between this dashboard and like these front end systems? So again, I've got these great new front end systems that I've been building on Pori. So like I've got a today view now. So when I come in here right away, I can get to my journal, get to my quick actions that I want to do, see today's tasks, jump in here, see today's reoccurring tasks, see linked records. So it's totally revolutionized how I use Airtable. I used to spend so much time in Airtable. Now I hardly spend any time actually in app anymore. Health base, totally, again, health dashboard for me now. It's outside of Airtable. A people dashboard, and then of course an asset dashboard. I want to come in and see things. And what I like about these external dashboards is to be able to link to external tables, right? And if I want to get in there and edit one of these things, I jump in to Airtable. Last but not least, my CRM dashboard. So I've got 2 clients so far this year, about $53,000 logged. I got my tasks for those clients, upcoming events, consulting, upcoming media. Then I've got my entire career for the last 10 years. I can come in here and search. So pretty cool. So I wanted to see like how far can I push the combination of Airtable, Interface Designer, and an external site. So the 3 of them coming together with 3 different use cases. To do that, I actually used my Airtable base, which is the one I use for journaling. So obviously everyone knows, I showed this on the show a few times last year. I come into this space every day, or I used to come into this space every day, log my feeling in the morning, my mental feeling, my physical feeling. It would automatically tell me, hey, grab this crystal, like this one, carry it around with you all day, put it on your chakra. I could pick a card, all sorts of stuff. You guys remember this space. So my thought was, I want to have a lot of this data surfaced externally for me and my family, because my family also uses the journal, my spouse does. So I built this front end to start to say, well, what would this look like? So again, the front end is really simple. It's got kind of my emotional trends, what's been going on with me recently, mentally, spiritually, physically. I can search. So if I want to say, hey, when's the last time I was actually angry? I can just type in that keyword, or I can literally come in and just search by, and it's going to pull up my actual journal. It looks really sweet too. Like I don't have to worry about it. I can see I was happy in the morning, but sure enough, by night, I was angry and frustrated. I lost my pills. I can't think straight. I spent the day hiding in the guest room. I'm just ruining how, oh, I don't want to say the F word. Sorry, I didn't mean to pull that one up. But if I wanted to get into that one, I could quickly just come in here and say relive, and it would take me to the actual record where I could do that. But while this is really great, because I can come in here, again, see these charts and graphs, my family understands this, I can externalize this, good stuff. It's got the magic stuff in here. So if I want to see, well, when does retrograde end? Okay, it's not green here. It's not red there. So retrograde ends there. Tarot drawing. I even have this whole access to this block banished bind board. I thought, well, how far could I push this? So now when I click on journal now, it doesn't go to the Airtable record. It goes to the Airtable interface designer. And what I've done with interface designer, because it's not as much fun to put my journaling in this way, but with interface designer, I was able to actually structure the record like I would want to use it. So right away, I get hit with what the day is, what's, what time sun coming up, what time sun going down, how much of a day I got, what am I feeling, my moods, mental, spiritual, physical, how am I, all that kind of good stuff. I'll go back to a day that's got more stuff filled out, because this today was only a few things. I then have this whole, again, the Terra stuff is still there. It's just in here. Now I can't embed apps yet. So what I had to do is actually created a link out to have it pull a card for me in another site, which again, I know it's not optimal, but I'm pretty sure I'll be able to do that. Last year at the end of the year, I kind of updated so I can add pictures from my day. So these pictures can get served back to our family on our other dashboard, which is kind of cool. And then kind of nighttime reflection. But what's so cool is it allowed me to put the time stuff like, okay, this is where the moon is. This is where the season is. This is where you are in your year right in here. So what I really love now, and I just can't get enough of how this is starting to come together, is how I've been able to take something that I built relatively, wasn't easy, but straightforward in Airtable, put a face on it so I can actually get in, search stuff really easy, quick, no license from my phone, looks beautiful, or get in from interface designer and really get in here and kind of tear it apart. So that's it. What do you think?
That interface looks so good. And the integrations between all of them were
right.
That's definitely one of the most well organized and cohesive interfaces I've seen of anybody.
Okay, so you like the interface designer.
I like your interface designer.
That's a big difference. Yeah.
Because I haven't seen anyone else's, but I'm telling you guys, I love this interface designer now. But I took time to think about how would the sections work, like workflow, like wish list, obviously embed apps, right? That would be a good thing. But the other thing is buttons to actually launch actions. Because I'd like to have it when I'm done with the day, say done with day, and have it check to see if any required fields were missing.
You'd have to write a formula for that.
Yeah.
Because you can't actually have required fields.
My biggest problem with interfaces right now is all the white space in between everything. I really need to build something out where I can look at everything that I need on one page and not have to scroll, because that's hard for people for some reason. And it's definitely doable if I could size things to the actual size that I need them. Within reason, it can be, you can have a little white space in between here and there, but I don't need 1/4 of an inch in between every element.
You see where I think you see where I think there's a need for something like a front end, like a Pori, and again, a KP Stacker that isn't really tied to interface designer or Airtable, right? It's my information, it's my charts, it's my graphs. I can search it, I can view it. If I want to jump in, I can relive the day. I think that, I don't know what, and everyone has a different name for it, but that front end is what I call it, needs to be there. Interface designer needs to be the simple, elegant way you get stuff in, and Airtable itself should be the last place you go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because even with the few interfaces that I have built, I've taken them to the same people that I handed Airtables, and they can use an interface and they cannot use an Airtable to save their lives. They won't even look at it because there's so much and I have to say like, okay, you know, there's all these fields at the bottom, but they just build this document and like, just ignore those. Anything with a red B next to it, don't look at it. Like all of
And wouldn't it
these
be great if
kind of
Interface Designer, when you finished a section, it actually worked like a form and it slid over and then you got the next section? So it wasn't like all you could eat at once. You know, I feel like Interface Designer, I love it because I can get to it and I can look at the whole day. But to me, I'd rather have morning till morning is done and then afternoon till afternoon is done.
You should talk to Kuvan, because Kuvan built it to where she wrote a formula that had buttons, and you can
Mhm.
have buttons if they're fields in your Airtable base in your Interface Designer. And so then you just have different pages and you bring the buttons into each page, kind of like a header on a website.
Oh, that's hot.
And so she could go click and she would go to the same record, because obviously it's an Airtable formula with like if you look at your interface URL up at the top, you
Yeah.
can write a formula and just include the and record ID at the end. And then you can click on
You
each one.
taught me how to do just the record. So thank you, Ben.
Yeah, and then you can have the pages. That's how Kuvan did it, which unfortunately she's not here anymore. But
So I guess my point is, whether you're on Softer or Stacker or Pori, definitely get in there and give yourself the use case of creating something that's external to anyone on what are this external interface, something that's internal and sexy for you, and something that's just Airtable 101. Because I'll tell you one thing, the one thing I know for sure after years on Airtable, I have more views than I have cents. I seriously, I have more views than I have cents. And some days, and thank God you can search by view, and it tells you, like, if you have a view like on another table, that has probably become my all-time favorite feature, because I don't worry about where these views are anymore. But man, I'm telling you right now, if I could have buttons for views on the top of Interface Designer, whoo, whoo. But it is what it is. I couldn't wait to get back and show you guys all the stuff I've been working on, because I'm so excited.
it looks very good.
Thank you. So what's everyone's plan? Are you gonna stick with Airtable, or are you quitting after tonight?
Definitely not after tonight, but it's made me do a lot of contemplation. You know, I've been offered a time or two to have real developers look at these things and kind of just work on something on the custom end of things that serves all of the functions, because anything that you can do with Airtable, you can do with a SQL database. Somebody smarter than me can, not me personally, but everything I've built, the structure of the data is coming out of a SQL database. So,
And this is what, and I think, Rebecca, you bring up an amazing point. And Chuck knows this. What I love about Airtable is it's taken regular people and introducing them to relational databases, right? It fundamentally rewires how you think. And Airtable or not, it's something that needs to happen with everyone. Chuck, you know what I'm saying, right? Can you see regular information anymore, Chuck?
I think that you got a good point, Chris. I think that it really does. It's the best tool I've seen to get people an easy introduction to SQL databases.
I think
Without the SQL, which is wonderful.
I think the comment I'll share next is going to be it's definitely a little bit early right now, because it just barely got released by Google. But I got this comment 10 hours ago. I put up a post. I'm not going to say where it is or who said it, but I got this comment on a post 10 hours ago, because at this point, I'm not 100% limiting myself to Airtable after seeing some of the trust issues that they had started. So I was just curious to see who was using other tools. And this was the first comment, was somebody.
I would be lying if I hadn't played with the Microsoft version, because I just migrated to Office 365 from Google Suites. I was on Google for 12 years. I just migrated everything over Christmas to, and again, it's okay, but I'll be honest with you, Airtable owns me. I know it. I know where to find stuff. I know how to work.
I just have a feeling in a year, it's going to be a little bit more competitive, and there's going to be a lot of people that want to stick with Google, and Google Tables is going to have a million record limit.
But I think it's like Google Forms. A lot of nonprofits use Google Forms for stuff. I think Google's version of whatever it is will make sense for a lot of people. If Airtable what Rebecca called them, cost per user. If Airtable loses a lot of the low-hanging fruit who go to Google or Microsoft or any of these other Airtable clones, I mean, did they really lose? I mean, it's sad because people are not there in the community. I'll be honest with you. I like, the thing I like second after Airtable, the Airtable community. I like the people. Like, I don't want these people to go, but like at the end of the day, I have to be honest. If I wasn't in a position where I could afford 3 pro bases with multiple users on both, would I still be using it? I don't know. It's a lot of money.
I got something on Slack, a link for a recent review of Airtable I just posted to the chat room. I thought it was pretty good, and it's talking about some of their competition. It's going to be real interesting to see if Airtable can stay ahead of the big guys.
Yeah, I read this guy's article earlier. This was actually really good, Chuck, but he's seen some software. I'll just say that.
He's
Yeah,
an old pal of one of the IT guys at the radio station.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I think Airtable has going for it that a lot of people just can't quite get their head around. When you see something like this, you go, that's sexy. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it does, but I want that. I'm not kidding. I just think a lot of people see like even stuff. I have people write to me all the time. I built a big website for a Black speakers thing for Black History Month and MLK and all sorts of kind of stuff. And people just like, they don't even care what it is. It just looks good. I'm like, okay, well, what do you want to do? I don't know. I get scared that somehow we've kind of entered into this world where like things have to be pretty before we use them. And Chuck will attest to this, hopefully. Structured data isn't supposed to be pretty.
Any way that you can get someone to think in relationships is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think the difference is you've definitely made it look pretty in like your interface, for example. Like
I needed it to look pretty. I mean, again, because my spouse uses the journaling app now too. And, for my spouse to use this, I could put him through this, where he comes in, he opens up Airtable, he goes to around now, he says, what day is it, right? I have one that just takes you to today, by the way, if you don't want to do it. But then again, it's just, okay, then what do you do? Okay, well, do I click here? What's this open? It doesn't make sense. Whereas this, there's today, or here's today, right? I just go through, I fill it out. At the end of the day, what was my highest value today? Actually, today I did really good. It was work. What was my lowest value today? Actually, today was actually home. I did nothing in the house. Oh, I talked to Ben, right? So again, I log when I chat with people. So like if I were to talk with, Sue, I'd have that. And what's nice about that is I can now run reports on who's making me good and who's making me bad. I'll tell you some structured data. Chuck, you know what I'm saying. I will run a report on you. You guys think I'm crazy, don't you?
it's awesome. I'd love to see the report.
Oh, don't worry. You're getting one for Christmas next year. Everybody in my life is getting a report on how they made me feel in a card. Like, Merry Christmas. I won't see you next year. Click. Here's the days and my mood because of you. Oh.
That's kind of fun.
All right. Well, Ben, thanks for getting us back together. And I'm excited to see what Table Talk has to say. And Rebecca, it's good to see you back.
I'm finally slowing down a little bit over here. So I've got some work from home time each week now. So hopefully I can take on a couple of extracurriculars. We'll see.
At least every other week starting now.
I think it's going to be a good change. I think it really is.
Is there anything anyone can do to help you? Do you need any help with anything? We got a big community. Anyone?
I'm fine. I'm doing okay. There's lots of ways to get around going out. And I'm becoming totally addicted to scripting. So I don't get bored.
That makes one of us, maybe two of us, Camille.
I love smart people. All right, guys.
Thanks, Camille.
Later.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye-bye.
I appreciate you all. We'll see you in 2 weeks.